They say the best things come from the work.
Absolutely. So we just want to start, first introduce yourself. Let us know exactly who you are and what's your relation to the late, great Michael Jackson.
My name is Brandy Jackson, and I am Michael's niece. And that's my direct relation, I guess.
Yeah. Who's?
Oh, my father is Jackie Jackson.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. And I'm Taj Jackson. I'm the nephew of Michael Jackson, and my dad is Tito.
Awesome.
Now, we obviously we know Michael Jackson's long storied career and his legacy. And one thing about his legacy, unfortunately, throughout the years, it's been tarnished by this black cloud, obviously, of child molestation, pedophilia, something that he's unfortunately had to carry along his legacy forever. Now that he's passed, 10 years removed, we hear something and see something about this documentary called Leaving Neverland. Talk about your first experiences in hearing about Leaving Neverland, the documentary.
So, my first experience with it, which I think is a little similar to Taj's, is we didn't learn about this until it was announced at the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
So it was more of a shock. It just was pretty sudden and very shocking. And just waiting to see what it was that these boys were saying. Obviously from the trailers and the previews, we knew what the narrative was. So we were just preparing for a bunch of lies that we knew were coming our way.
Yeah, they pretty much hid it from everyone, and it was we were blindsided by it. No respect factor thrown in there at all. No heads up. No, do you want to? We want to get your side of it. They just we found out just like everyone else.
Something I want to expound on, because that's one thing that we talked about in particular with Oprah after she did, she could or kind of followed up the Leaving Neverland and had Safe Check and ropes and on. And one of the biggest things was why, especially in that position, Oprah, supposedly someone that's befriended Michael Jackson, was close. Why not cross-examine these two up here? Why not question their credibility? It was none of that. It was more narrative being steered. So one, talk about Oprah, what your thoughts were on that whole situation, and why, in your opinion, did you think that she never questioned the credibility of these two, given their shaky and rocky explanations each time they talk about it?
She was, if you saw the she was feeding them. She was basically guiding them down a path. When they would say something, she would correct them in a way to make it sound like, oh, that's part of why you're a victim. And it's like, I have my own thoughts about it, because Oprah was also the one that, when my uncle passed, she wanted the exclusive interview with my grandma and the kids. And I was there, and she was talking about how Michael was misrepresented. No one understood Michael, and we were trying to get the real Michael. So I think in a sense, Oprah will say what Oprah wants to say to get the interview. And she's done that to our family many times. And so we have a different view of Oprah than everyone else does in that sense, because, we've been hurt by her many times in the past.
And like you said, she didn't even give 1 second to see the other side of it. As soon as that documentary was announced that it was going to be aired, it was followed up with Oprah's interview.
Yeah.
So we knew that interview was going to be happening with Oprah before we even saw the film.
Yeah. She blessed it. Basically said, this is the truth, and you guys run with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's been the hardest thing, is that, all those people that follow Oprah blessed it as well without even seeing it beforehand. And it's just been frustrating for us, especially since there's plenty of people that Oprah knows that she could have done a special on. Yes. Someone very big right now that's in the news that no one's talking about, that she's friends with, Mr. Harvey Weinstein. And I feel that this is a bunch of smoke and mirrors in a way, that as long as we're talking about Michael Jackson, we're not talking about Harvey. And that's been the case with a lot of these so-called celebrities that are in for real trouble, is that Michael Jackson covers all of them in a way. They want him to be the poster child, even though he's innocent.
And the only way to sell that is to bulldoze everything else that could potentially stop that.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. The media bulldozed.
They forced the narrative, basically. And then they had Oprah bless it. And so everyone just took it for truth.
Do you have any, does the estate of Michael Jackson have any or seek any legal recourse for the defamation and the slander. Could you give the people an update on that? Have they, I know they tried to block, it for coming out on Sundance and HBO. Can you speak on that, please?
There is actually no legal recourse you can take for the dead. The dead cannot be slandered or libeled. So basically, there's nothing we can do. So that's something people should know right away. It's not that we're quiet and we're not trying to. Trust me, if there was a law on that, we would have sued them many, many times. But the problem is there is no law. So you can say anything about, anyone you want, from Elvis to Tupac to, Biggie. You can make up anything, and their families unfortunately cannot, have that recourse. And it's a shame, because our hands are tied basically, and we have to listen to these lies. And they used to use the word allege. They don't even need to use that anymore. And they freely don't use it anymore. They say he's a monster, he's a pedophile. They say all these things because they know that we can't sue them.
Yeah. Speak on that a little bit. Excuse me. I want you to speak on, if you don't mind, going through the years, knowing your uncle and hearing all these allegations, but from the outside looking in, just seeing nothing but love and just positivity come out of him and exuberate through him. How did he deal with all that backlash and all that negativity? Did it take its toll on him?
I think it did. I mean, I was around for 2005. I honestly feel that the 2005 trial killed him, before he passed. I think it killed his soul. It literally did. Him being there, you saw him deteriorate from that time period, for when he first went into the courtroom to when he left. He withered away, because it's almost like people chopping at your soul, basically, and knowing that something that you did not do, but the world, and I say the world, I'm talking about the media, wants you to be that person, and they're going to paint that picture on you, no matter what happens. Everything from him getting bit by a spider and then having to appear, in pajamas, that became national. It's like he couldn't win. He found out he had 40 minutes to appear in court, or and so he came the way he came, and it's like he can't win no matter what happens. And that's the thing with him, is that everything became a fiasco, and they had their mindset already, and it's unfortunate, because since I was there, I would talk to Tom Mesereau, which was my uncle's lawyer, every day after court, and I would say, "How'd it go, Tom?" And he would tell me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, we caught this person lying, we caught this person lying, this went well." And then I would turn on the news and I would see the complete opposite, and I'd be like, okay, someone here is lying to me. And I'm like, either Tom Mesereau is very comfortable and very naive, or the media is lying to me. And now I know, and I knew back then which one was the truth. And sure enough, the media was spinning it their own way.
Right. What do you say to the criticism, from people out there who will say, you guys get paid, you're just doing this for money? What do you say to that? You know what I mean? Because I know you guys have had your fair share of criticism, putting yourself out on more and more platforms. Could you please speak to that aspect?
Yeah, we're speaking out on behalf of our uncle, because we know the truth. We know this man and what he stood for, and we're not going to sit here and let anybody tell it otherwise. We don't make any money from him, his estate, his legacy, any of those things. This is just out of pure respect and love. When you were raised a certain way, and you were raised to speak out when you know the truth, and that's what we're doing. Injustice,
yeah,
exactly.
And I think anyone, if they had a family member that they were accused of this, and they knew that was not the truth, they would be doing the same thing we're doing right now. They'd be yelling at the top of their lungs. And so, just because it's Michael Jackson doesn't mean that we're not allowed to do this. And I think that's the biggest lie, is that people want us to be quiet. We're not going to be quiet.
And especially, these aren't, this isn't a random person that's making these accusations. Wade and James, we know their history. We know who they are. So that makes it even more personal for us. Yep. We understand what their motives are. So we have to speak on that.
Indeed. Now, recently, probably within the last couple of years or so, we've seen a number of celebrities, in particular, Black celebrities, going through trials, going through a lot of blame. Bill Cosby, R. Kelly. Now we see Michael Jackson be brought back up. Now, not to say that one is guilty, one is innocent or not, but when we talk about this on the podcast, we kind of go and ask the question, especially when race is involved. Okay, well, if there is something going on, the question would be why. And when we bring up Bill Cosby, obviously the ownership of NBC and things like that make you tend toward believing, okay, that's something. R. Kelly, maybe not so much. But when you think about Michael Jackson, Okay, let's talk about the catalog. Let's talk about what he owned. Let's talk about a little bit of the power that Michael Jackson really had, and why they were so hell bent on destroying him.
You know, I think it's not only the power that